Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. He was the NFL's best wide receiver, then he disappeared. Let's go ahead and check this out. Michael Thomas's his fall off has got to be studied. But I feel like the only reason he really fell off is because of injuries. Nigga can never stay healthy.
Research, I think I uncovered the truth behind his disappearance. Michael Thomas was far from a star in high school. As a junior, the wide receiver barely saw the field. However, the spring before his senior season, Michael realized he had potential and decided to devote
that's
all
a
his
cursed
time
image right
to
there.
becoming the best football player possible. He started lifting and put on 30 pounds of muscle in just one offseason. So by the time his senior season arrived, he was 6'3", 185 pounds, and a matchup nightmare for opposing corners. He finished the year with 1,656 receiving yards, the most by any player in the entire state of California. Despite his breakout season, Thomas was just a 3-star recruit and ranked as the 123rd best wide receiver in the class of 2011, behind future NFL players like Sammy Watkins, Jarvis Landry, and Odell Beckham Jr. The wide receiver also wasn't getting offers from the schools he wanted. It was his dream to stay home in SoCal and play for UCLA or USC, but neither of those schools were interested in him.
Went to Ohio
State. High school, Michael decided not to go to college. Instead, he enrolled at Fork Union Military Academy in Virginia. While playing there, the first offer he received was from Ohio State, and immediately the wide receiver committed to the school. His freshman season, Thomas saw action in 11 games. However, things took a turn for the worse to start his second season. After having sloppy performances in practice, Michael was benched to start the year, and eventually he was redshirted. After a full year being stuck on the sidelines, Michael became a starter in 2014. He made a huge impact with 799 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns that season. The following year, 2015, Thomas put up great numbers yet again, with another 700-plus yard, 9 touchdown season. The overlooked wide receiver was finally on everybody's radar, and after his junior season, he declared for the 2016 NFL Draft. During the pre-draft process, Thomas was projected to be a late first, early second round pick, and was ranked by many as the 5th or 6th best wide receiver in the class. Why wasn't he ranked higher? Well, scouts were worried about his lack of speed after running a 4.57 40, and there was also some concern about his route running ability. Draft day arrived, and the Saints
they don't call him Slant Boy for no reason, bro.
Pick in the second round. The 5 wide receivers selected ahead of him
Bro's route tree is not the best.
Fuller, Josh Doxson, Quan Treadwell, and Sterling Shepard. Heading into the start of the 2016 season, the rookie wide receiver was named one of the Saints starters. Immediately, Thomas made an impact, recording 6 catches for 58 yards in the first game of the season. 2 weeks later, the rookie caught his first NFL touchdown versus the Falcons, and Michael's play just kept improving as the season went along. In a Week 7 matchup with the Chiefs, the wide receiver hauled in 10 catches for 130 yards. In the final game of his rookie season, Thomas had the best game of his young career thus far, catching 10 passes for 156 yards and a score. Michael finished his first NFL season with 92 catches for 1,137 yards.
Rookie year. I mean, that's a great start, bro.
Franchise record for
and he just continued to get better ever since then, but then injuries started to really creep up, I think, after the 2019 season.
Selected in 2016, Thomas was already looking like the best in the class. During that 2016 season, he led all rookie wide receivers in both yards and touchdowns. And the thing is, no other rookie even came close to touching his stats. The rookie with the second most receiving yards that season was Sterling Shepard with 683. Thomas almost had double that number. Heading into 2017,
that's a big drop off.
The Saints were so confident in Thomas's ability to carry the offense, they traded their number 1 wide receiver, Brandon Cooks, to the Patriots. Despite now being doubled by defenses, Michael thrived as the Saints' go-to guy. He had 104 receptions for 1,245 yards and 5 touchdowns during the 2017 regular season. But now, a real test was on the horizon. The Saints had won the NFC South and were heading to the playoffs as a 4 seed. In the wildcard round, the Saints were set to host the 5 seed Panthers. In his first ever playoff game, Thomas had his best game of the season with 8 receptions for 131 yards. After their first round win, the Saints flew to Minnesota to take on the 2 seed Vikings.
So we all know what happened in this game.
The second-year wideout was was New Orleans' leading receiver yet again, with 85 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. However, just when it looked like they were about to move on to the NFC Championship game,
the Minneapolis Miracle, man.
Happened. So the Saints season was over in absolutely heartbreaking fashion. Despite the rough end to the season, Thomas was able to participate in his first Pro Bowl a few weeks later. Michael's third NFL season started with a bang after catching a franchise record 16 passes for 180 yards and a touchdown.
Ooh.
In Week 9, he had the best game of his career thus far, following a 12-reception, 211-yard, and 1 touchdown performance versus the Rams.
I just wish he could have stayed healthy, bro.
And were the 1 seed in the NFC after going 13-3 during the regular season. In the divisional round, Thomas went absolutely off in a win versus the Eagles, snagging 12 receptions for a franchise record 171 yards and a score. The Saints were just now 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl. The only thing standing in their way?
We all know what happened here, bro. Like, the Saints should have went to the Super Bowl that year.
New Orleans, as they were up
that bullshit call from the refs.
However,
how do you how do you not call a pass interference
an outstanding
on that play,
Rams
bro?
Corner Aqib Talib was really able to keep him in check. With 1:49 left, the game was tied, but the Saints were in the red zone. Then maybe one of the worst no calls.
Like, come on, bro.
Happened. Clearly, it was pass interference. I don't know why the refs didn't decide to call it.
They must have, bro. They definitely had a parlay on the game.
Rams kicked a game-winning field goal to send them to the Super Bowl. Thomas finished the game with just 4 receptions for 36 yards. Despite a tough final game, Michael finished the season with the most receptions in the league at 125 and the 6th most receiving yards with 1,405. After putting up these fantastic numbers, Thomas made the Pro Bowl yet again and was also named a first-team All-Pro. Heading into 2019, Michael Thomas was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
This is his best season right here.
Rewarded him with a contract that made him the highest-paid wide receiver in the league at the time. Immediately, Thomas showed New Orleans that they made the right choice. In a Week 1 face-off with the Texans, Michael hauled in 10 catches for 123 yards. Then, in Week 5, he had 11 grabs for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Didn't they get blown out that game?
In 9 of the Saints' 16 regular season games that year, Thomas had over 100 yards. He finished the 2019 season with an NFL record 149 receptions,
a record that still holds up to this day,
yards, and 9 touchdowns. That means he was averaging 9 receptions and 107 receiving yards per game. No other player was even close to putting up his numbers. Christian McCaffrey had the 2nd most receptions in the league with 116.
That's crazy, a running back having the 2nd most
Julio
receptions
Jones
in the
had
league.
the 2nd most receiving yards with 1,394, nearly 400 less than the Saints wideout. In 2019, for the 3rd consecutive year, the Saints won the NFC South. And as a 3 seed, they were set to host the 6 seed Vikings. Would the team be able to get revenge for their heartbreaking playoff loss versus them 2 seasons ago? Well, Thomas was
Rudolph ended their
season
on a game-winner
hauling in just 70 catches for 70 yards. With less than 90 seconds left in the game, the Saints found themselves down 3. Thomas made this tough catch to help them get into field goal range, where they tied the game in the final seconds.
And Kyle Rudolph ended their season.
Just like last year's heartbreaking loss in the NFC Championship game, the Saints were going to overtime. The Vikings got the ball first and never gave.
I still think that this should have been a pass interference.
First drive. New Orleans season was over in gut-wrenching fashion right there. Yet again.
Damn, I feel that fan right there, bro.
After his historic season,
that's how it was last year when we lost to the Chiefs.
For the 2nd consecutive year, as well as a Pro Bowler for the 3rd. He was also named the AP Offensive Player of the Year, which marked the first time a wide receiver had won the award since Jerry Rice in 1993.
Damn.
At this point, Michael Thomas was at the top
Jefferson
of the
won
NFL
it a couple
game.
years ago.
He wasn't just one of the best wide receivers in the game, he was one of the best players in it, period. However, this is when things started to take a turn for
injuries.
In the first game of the 2020 season, Thomas suffered a high ankle sprain and was ruled out for the next few weeks. He was expected to be able to suit up for the team's Week 5 matchup, but then he did the unexpected. Thomas had a physical altercation with corner CJ Gardner-Johnson during practice. After the incident, Thomas talked back to coaches, including Sean Payton, and refused to listen to them. As a result, the team decided to discipline him by suspending him for 1 game. But apparently, this wasn't the first time Thomas had acted out. The wide receiver had reportedly barked at a trainer for not taping his ankle properly, and he accused an administrator of going through his mail. The team was now officially worried about their star wide receiver's behavior. Thomas finally returned.
Nigga got paid and ain't know how to act, bro.
In his first game back, he had just 5 receptions for 51 yards. The following week, he played even worse with just 2 receptions for 27 yards. He finally bounced back in week 10 with his first 100-yard game of the season, but then after another 100-yard performance in week 14, he was placed on IR due to his lingering ankle injury. However, Thomas was able to return for the team's playoff game versus the Bears, and in that wildcard matchup, the receiver looked like he was getting back to his old self, catching 5 passes for 73 yards and a score. But then, just a week later, things look worse than ever for the wide receiver. In the team's divisional round matchup with the Bucs, Thomas had 0 receptions on 4 targets. He didn't record a single catch or a single yard. Just absolutely unreal, considering he broke the record for the most receptions in a single season just a year prior. After that game, Drew Brees retired, so now Thomas didn't even know who would be throwing him the ball next season. The wide receiver finished 2020 with just 438 yards and 0 touchdowns. Before the start of 2021's training camp, Thomas underwent surgery on his ankle. But why did he do it so late in the offseason? Well, it turns out there was more drama between him and the Saints. After the 2020 season ended, the receiver reportedly ignored phone calls from the organization. The Saints trainer, his wide receiver coach, and head coach Sean Payton were all trying to contact him. After Thomas finally had the surgery, Sean Payton said, quote, "It's disappointing. We would have liked that to happen earlier. And quite honestly, it should have. I'm going to leave it at that." Michael then fired back by tweeting, "They tried to damage your reputation. You saved theirs by not telling your side of the story." He also liked multiple posts that insinuated the Saints urged him to play even though he wasn't fully healthy. Now the question was, does the receiver want out of New Orleans? Is he trying?
Well, he's out of New Orleans now. He's a free agent still.
Undergoing the surgery late, Thomas was expected to play at some point during the 2021 season. However, in November, he announced on Twitter that he suffered a setback during rehab and would not be playing at all in 2021. Reportedly, his body rejected the hardware put in during surgery. Heading into 2022, Thomas was finally back on the Saints practice field. During the offseason, new head coach Dennis Allen had flown out to California to spend time with Thomas and form a bond with the wide receiver. In his first game of the season, he recorded 5 catches for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. His solid play continued the following week when he hauled in 6 catches for 65 yards and 1 score. Just as the wide receiver seemed to be getting back on track, he was derailed yet again. Thomas left the team's week 3 game with a toe injury. Initially, the team had hoped he could return at some point during the year. However, in November, he was placed on IR and had season-ending surgery.
Nigga, your season ended because of a toe injury? There's no way, bro.
Thomas's body rejected the hardware put in during surgery, which resulted in the hardware that was put in his toe having to be taken out at a later date. After playing in just 3 games the past 2 seasons, the Saints restructured Thomas's contract heading into 2023, which meant his base salary dropped from $15.5 million to $1.16 million.
Damn.
Chris Olave was the Saints' new #1 wideout. Thomas put up solid stats to start the 2023 season. Throughout the first 8 weeks of the year,
and then he got
Thomas
injured
was
again.
averaging 4 receptions and 54 yards per game. But on November 11th, things took a turn for the worse yet again. That evening, Michael was arrested after throwing a brick at a contractor's car.
Wait, hold on. When the hell did this happen? I was not aware of this at all.
That evening, Michael was arrested after throwing a brick at a contractor's car. Thomas
did
suit up in the team's game versus the Vikings 2 days later, but suffered a knee injury on the team's first offensive play and didn't return. The injury turned out to be season-ending, and Thomas believed that Derek Carr, the Saints quarterback, was at fault for the injury. 2 games after he got hurt, Thomas tweeted out, "When your eyes don't work, you get people hurt. It's no mystery, and it's something that needs..."
Hey, bro, I think he's got a point, though. You know what I'm saying? Because, bro, Derek Carr be throwing some questionable passes, bro. He be throwing some hospital balls, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I ain't gonna lie, he throws some hospital balls, and Michael Thomas might be on to something right here.
Studied. Then he deactivated his account. Then a few months later, during the offseason, Thomas responded to a tweet by saying, well, if I didn't get set up by a bad ball, I probably would have had a light little 1K yards this year. But could've, should've, I know, I get it, LOL. He then went on to say the Saints weren't even trying to get him the ball. After that, in March, he posted that the Saints leaked info about
him a hoe.
Reporter Jeff Duncan to ruin their value. He went on to say the Saints did this because he's not a yes man and has a winning mentality that makes losers uncomfortable. A few days later, on March 13th, 2024, the Saints released Michael Thomas. It was a move many saw coming, and some thought could even happen before the start of the 2024
I mean, that was a toxic environment between him and
May 2024,
the franchise, bro, the organization.
NFL team and is currently a free agent. And
that might be the reason why injuries and his
start of the regular season.
Attitude
Thomas
issues.
is already 31 years old, and injuries have clearly been an issue. I think teams would have been interested in signing the former All-Pro to a 1-year vet minimum deal, but when you look at what's happened off the field, it makes sense for them to be hesitant about bringing him in. If none of the off-the-field stuff,
because like, bro, I wouldn't be mad about him on a 1-year deal with my Ravens. You know what I'm saying? Because we do need another veteran. But I don't know, bro. But after seeing this video, I really don't know anymore. I mean, already because of the injury issues and shit like that, but him being a fucking walking crash out now, bro, I just don't know.
He would be on a team right now. But for a guy you're not even sure can stay healthy, why would you risk signing him and possibly causing a rift in your locker room? If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll definitely enjoy this one.
W video. Make sure y'all go subscribe to her channel, bro. She be having some bangers.
Of all time.
But I hope you guys enjoyed though. If you know what I'm saying, Michael Thomas, just hope that he can just calm the fuck down, because all of this shit could have definitely been avoided if he, if he wasn't such a fucking crash. Like, he could have been on a team right now. But y'all let me know down in the comments what you guys think, bro. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on my post notification, notify whenever I drop another banger video on the road to 200 subs. Hope we get there for more banger NFL content like this. Without further ado, I'm out. Gang!